I'm Nick Bollettieri. This video is going to show you one of the most underrated, misunderstood shots in the game, the drop shot. That's right, the drop shot. The video is going to show you how to hit it, when to hit it, and why you hit it. You talk about having a big killer forehand? Review this video over and over again. You'll add another weapon to your game. You know, quite often I'm asked what a drop shot is. You know, a drop shot is actually a ground stroke. It starts out with the same backswing, the same intensity when you go to meet the ball. So it's the element of disguise that comes off your same motion. When a drop shot crosses the net, it should bounce twice within the service line, be no higher than the net. And what does drop mean? Drop. The ball hits and drops right back down. And in some instances, with a little spin, it drops and comes back to you. That's a drop shot. Why do I use a drop shot? Well, first of all, to use a drop shot to have another shot in your arsenal of weapons. Number two, there are players that are darn comfortable on the baseline, running to the right, running to the left. They can stay there all day long. A lot of times, you don't like coming to the net. I'm going to bring you up to the net on my terms. You don't want to come there. I know the shot I'm hitting, so I've got you 2 times. You don't like being up there, and I know the type of shot I'm going to hit to you. A drop shot can do all sorts of variations and keep doubting the opponent of what you're going to do. When do I use a drop shot? Let me refer back to Andre Agassi. When Andre hit the drop shot, I closed my eyes, because 90% of the times it was hit from a panic situation. He got nervous and tried to end a point too quickly. You go to a boxing match and you see combinations. He'll jab, jab, jab. Why is he jabbing? To set up the big punch. Same way with a drop shot. Here I am, I have big forehand and big backhand. The opponent moves back 5 or 6 feet. A drop shot can be a very offensive shot, not just to draw the person out of position, but it could end a point instantly. And remember, the drop shot doesn't have to be a winner, but it changes the tempo. It throws the opponent off their rhythm. That's important. What makes the drop shot so effective? Number one, disguise. The magician is a great magician because he disguises what he's going to do. Drop shot's the same. It's the preparation, it's the direction of the ball, it's the height of the ball.
Let's look closely at 2 separate shots that work well together to create disguise. Notice the deep slice backhand and the drop shot look nearly identical in both preparation and execution of the stroke. The deep slice has a slightly longer follow-through in this comparison. Otherwise, from the opponent's point of view, they are perfectly disguised. Hitting your drop shot toward your opponent as opposed to away from them allows you to further disguise the shot using the limits of your opponent's depth perception to your advantage. Used in a deep slice cross-court pattern, the drop shot should stay in the pattern, making your opponent think it's just another deep slice. Look how early you can spot the drop shot when it is hit away from the opponent, giving them time to react to it and put it away. If the height of the drop shot is too high, it will lose the disguise of looking like a slice. The bounce will be higher, allowing more time for the opponent to run it down. Try to execute the drop shot with similar net clearance to that of your deep slice.
What you've seen is the element of disguise and how important disguise is in an effective drop shot. Let's hit 2 or 3 slices. Slice, slice, another slice. Now the same way, the slice with a little less power going into the drop shot. Very effective. Let's go to the forehand. Connors, Everett, and Martina Hingis. The chip forehand. Same backswing, opening up the face slightly, a little less power, the chip forehand going into the drop shot. both sides, you must maintain disguise. Set it up and then come in with the drop shot off the very same motion. The three keys to hitting an effective drop shot are the following: the grip, Eastern backhand to continental; the swing, basically the same as hitting a forehand or backhand; the balance, the foundation. If you have all three of these ingredients, your chances of hitting an effective drop shot are increased. As we discussed, the three essentials of the drop shot are the grip, which I'm now in an Eastern backhand grip. The backswing, basically the same as if I'm going to hit my regular backhand, whether it be low to high or a drive. And then three, I have excellent foundation, which helps me to have a long follow through and complete ball control. Remember, grips, the stroke's basically the same, and the strong foundation.
From backswing to follow-through, the one-handed backhand drop shot is prepared and executed, following the same swing path as that of the deep slice stroke, the only difference being an adjustment in power and a slight opening of the racket face to apply rotation rather than depth to the ball. The two-handed backhand drop shot is hit in the same way. It should have all the earmarks of a deep slice. Some two-handed backhanders prefer to release with one hand after contact for further extension on the follow-through. The forehand drop shot should be prepared to look just like the deep chip forehand, the same swing all the way to follow-through, with a slight opening of the racket face to create rotation instead of depth on the ball.
The drop shot is not to be used to gain outright winners. The drop shot is a part of the strategy of learning when to use it and how to use it. And there's all sorts of scenarios that we're going to show you when the drop shot is very effective. Sometimes it may bring you an outright winner, but in most cases, we don't want that. It's part of the overall plan.
If you try to make winners of all your drop shots, you'll end up making too many unforced errors. But remember, even when you miss a drop shot, you'll still plant a seed in the opponent's mind to have to defend the short court against it next time. Once they've positioned closer to the baseline, going back to your deep slices and your powerful ground strokes will be more forcing and effective. So, you beat them short, then you beat them deep, then you beat them short, and so on.
What I want to do right now is to show you a few scenarios of how the drop shot is being set up. One of my coaches right now hits a tremendous rolling topspin forehand. As a result, what does it do? It usually moves the opponent back. Right there, you have set up the scenario for a specialty shot. And this time, it's going to be the drop shot. But you have to build that scenario. And one of the ways to build it is to move that baseliner away from the baseline and push them back. Push him back, push him back to 6 or 7 feet behind the baseline and see if they stay there. If they stay there, you've got them with the drop shot.
Using the high looping forehand as a 1-2 punch with the drop shot can be effective merely because the opponent is so deep in the court. However, notice how difficult it is to disguise this combination. At the height of the backswing, these two strokes look alike, but beyond that, the opponent can begin to read the drop shot in preparation. That's why it's important to still incorporate the deep chip in the course of your play. It may help you later in a loop drop combination.
The backhand, be hit with two hands with a one-hand release, or a total one-handed backhand. My job is to find out what you like and what you don't like. Normally, one-handed backhands, when pushed back off high-rolling topspin forehands, have difficulty. They try to bring it down. The element of strength usually forces you to hit a short ball. When you do that, the specialty shots come in. I can come in, I can angle you. Oh, what a fantastic opportunity for the drop shot.
Once your opponent learns that you can masterfully disguise your drop shot behind the use of your deep slice cross-court ground stroke, then they'll never know for sure when you will drop shot. You can use the two shots in combination back to back in a rally as a 1-2 punch. Or because you've built the situation up over time in the mind of the opponent, the drop shot can be mixed in by itself, working in combination with recent points that you've played. On the forehand side in the rally, using the chip forehand every so often will set the disguise for the drop shot. More often, this combination is used on the forehand approach rather than from the backcourt. For attacking the net, the forehand chip approach shot and the drop approach shot combine beautifully down the line to keep the opponent guessing. The preparation, execution, follow-through, and even the footwork look identical in both shots. The backhand slice approach shot and the drop approach shot again work in harmony to disguise the depth of your shots. Use the drop approaches sparingly on both sides to keep them effective. Any drop shot that doesn't end the point will likely allow you to move inside the baseline and close the point out on the next shot. In most instances, with the opponent so close to the net, it is most effective to follow a drop shot with a lob or a lob volley. Now we have a 3-ball combination, a deep slice, then a drop shot, followed by a lob. As a result, merely an average lob will accomplish winning the point. Oftentimes, a drop shot pulls the opponent out of position, leaving the court open for a passing shot. Again, in this situation, you just need to fill the opening with the pass. You don't need a winner off the tape.
How often do you use the drop shot? I can't say 3 times, 4 times, or 5 times. It depends on the opponent. But what I can tell you, it comes off a combination of shots. We now have to talk about court surfaces. The harder the surface, the higher the ball bounces. Clay, grass, especially with a little dew, or wetting down those courts to make them almost like a dead bounce. Very effective. Also is effective because changing directions on a clay court that's slippery, almost impossible. Changing directions on grass, especially the first week of the tournament, very difficult because it's slippery. Now, let's talk about the weather, the wind, the humidity, the heaviness of the particular day that you're playing against. Heavy air, the ball's on as lively. The wind. Wind on my back, are you going to hit a drop shot? Certainly not. As much as you're going to hit it when it's in your face. Why? Because the wind will hold the ball up, making the drop shot more effective. Remember what I'm telling you. There's a lot to the success of any shot. The how, the when, the why is not enough. You want to have the perfect recipe? Put in weather conditions, court surfaces, and the ability of the opponent. Pick up little tips about your opponent, about their movement and recovery, and what direction they like to go to or not like to go to. This is another factor that will make your drop shot much more effective.
To practice developing the touch and feel of a drop shot, try playing mini tennis, emphasizing the use of underspin. Played like ping pong, this game can be great fun and will help you learn to have soft hands even on the dead run. The skills of executing a drop shot are fairly basic and easy to learn. However, becoming a master of disguise and match play takes a lot of practice. Try videotaping yourself from the various perspectives shown throughout this video and checkpoint yourself for disguise. Set up deep and short targets in the pattern you are going to practice and work on alternating from deep and short targets. Do this for each combination. As you begin to develop good control in fed ball drills, you can progress to using the combinations in actual match play. Remember, be patient and keep trying.
Let me share with you the 1998 World's Ladies Championships held in New York. I went up to see Martina Hingis play Lindsay Davenport in the finals. I had been working with Martina for a couple of weeks. Lindsay Davenport was tired. The legs just weren't moving right. Martina captured this right away, moved her side to side, moved her in on the drop shots, and it became an effective weapon for beating Lindsay Davenport in the finals. Tommy Haas, before going to the 1999 Australian Championships, asked me a question. Nick, when do I come into the net? I said, Tommy, come in all the time. You'll find out your own self when to come in and when not to come in. It's the same advice I'm going to give to you. Go out and apply the drop shot to your game, and also part of your practice. You're going to get burnt a few times. Don't get discouraged. Keep working it. Sooner or later, you'll find the right time to use it, and this will become another weapon in your game. When we talk about the lob, it shouldn't be a shot that's a stranger to the players. The lob is really an important part of the game. And I sincerely feel that so many people think that the lob and the drop shot are sissy shots. Yeah. You know, if you try these shots, you're a sissy. I remember working at country clubs so often, and I could hear several of the ladies telling their boyfriends or husband at the end of the day, I'm not playing that lady anymore. All she does is hit the short shot and lob, and that's not tennis. But you know what? Watch the best tennis in the world today, and you'll see that the lob is a big part of the game. You know, you already know Rafter's going to be coming to the net. He's coming in, he's coming in, he's coming in. Well, if you don't throw in some occasional lobs, you have no chance because he's up at the net and he can cover to the right and cover to the left. It's just another part of the game. You know, specialty shots are very much part of the game. It's just knowing the time to use it and how to use it. That's the difference. You know, in talking about the lob, we should go a little bit into depth of what a lob can do for you. Number one, if you have a net rusher that's just going to come plowing into the net, you have to discourage that person from plowing into the net and putting their nose very close to the net and say, hey, I'm going to put your passing shot away. The lob, whether it's successful or not, puts hesitation into the net rusher. Once you put hesitation into the net rusher, they'll start staying a couple of feet more away from the net, which makes your angles and your passing shots more effective. So we have to understand that the lob is really a tremendous sort of stoppage to the net rusher, but you have to create doubt that you can lob as well as pass. First of all, if a student does not want to come to the net, you already know that they're hesitant up there. Right. And quite often in court strategy, your coach will tell you, or you should understand yourself, I'm going to bring that person in. And when that person comes into a territory that they really fear, you can hit all sorts of shots, especially if they have their weight coming forward and a little bit off balance. The lob would be very, very effective. But let's go to the other scenario, to a student that's very comfortable at the net and is going to be coming in, they have a big serve, they have a big overhead. That makes no difference. You still must use the lob to discourage the position that they take. When you look at some students, you should be able to find out your own self according to their style of play and especially their grips on whether or not their overheads will be quite effective. We all know that if a person comes to the net and they're in their semi-Western grip or their full Western grip and they're going to try to hit an overhead or a volley, you're going to have a field day in whatever you hit. If you're 8-10 feet behind the baseline and you have a net rusher coming in, quite often you probably will go to the lob. Why? Because you're so far away from the net that if you elected to hit the passing shot, the ball has to travel an extra 8 or 10 feet, giving the net man time to go either to the right or to the left and cut it off. So the position and your balance on a court have a major bearing to the lob and also to the type of lobs. We have the purely low to high lob. We have the lob with a little underspin that sort of hangs up in the air, very effective in a windy day. Or we have the topspin lob that's actually used by the majority of players today against net rushes. There's the short ball. The attacker comes in. At this time, I'm going to lob over their head because they have made up their mind they're going to close in right on top of the net. At this time, any type of lob is effective because their attitude is, I'm going to make you hit an effective lob. If not, I'm going to make a winning volley. Scenario number 2. Notice the steps now of the attacker comes in and sort of stops right in front of the service line. At this particular point, the attacker has the advantage to hit an effective overhead and win the point. Third scenario, the person doesn't want to come in, comes in the area of the service line. At this time, the lob becomes much less effective than any other time. 3 scenarios. 1, the net rusher comes in and closes in tight. The lob is very effective. Scenario 2, the net man comes in to the service line area, takes a step or 2 forward. The lob is good, but it's got to be a darn good lob. Scenario 3, the net man comes in, stays in the area of the service line. Your lob becomes less effective. At that time, you must decide to hit the passing shots or the angle shots. Remember, it all depends on the net rusher of what you do with your counterpunch shot. The lob is nothing more than the ground stroke, as we'll show in this video, but just hit a little higher above the net. But the disguise, the backswing, doing everything the same except for point of contact is really the only little difference that we have. What I'm going to do at the beginning of my lesson is just hit a few balls to my student and just see what he does. His style, I'm going to look at the foundation, I'm going to look at the backswing, the follow through, and the grips. All of those factors will come into the development of a successful lob. All right, now we'll notice this student has a straight back method on his backhand. It's low to high. Let's go to the forehand. A little circular motion. Has a pretty darn good foundation. He's in an open stance right here. He has a low to high follow through. And let's go to the backhand once more. Gets into a neutral stance. Has a semi-western backhand grip. He gets the racket head low under the ball. So now I know my student's style of play. What I'm going to ask my student right now is to utilize the same foundation, the same swing, the same grip, but make a few simple adjustments on the path of his swing. Let's hit some forehands and backhands right back to me, please. And let's work on those groundies. Good boy. Now, but hit those regular ground strokes to me, but just a little higher, please. Good boy. Even a little higher. Well done. Now, when I hold up my arm and racket extended, just hit that backhand or forehand over the top of my arm and racket, please. Good. Do it again. All right, a couple of more forehands and backhands. I like it. Get that racket head under the ball. Perfect. I want the same backswing. Remember, disguise at all times. Same expressions, same backswings, but at the last second, go under that ball just a little bit more, hitting from a low to high. And that's the beginning of getting more height, which is actually the beginning of the lob. All right, now hit me your regular ground strokes again. Perfect. Another forehand. Good. Get underneath the ball and hit it a little higher. Well done. The backhand. Same straight backswing. Now he's going to get underneath the ball and hit it a little higher. Look at the follow-throughs. Basically the same. The backswings on the forehand, the follow-through, now the lob. The same swing. The backhand, low to high, now the lob. What we've accomplished already is an element of disguise. It was very difficult for me to say that was the beginning of the lob. I couldn't tell the difference. So we've already accomplished his style of play going into the lob.
The flat low to high lob is the most basic of all lobs to execute. Though using less power, this stroke should look much like a normal forehand drive, with the exception of an earlier contact point and a slightly opened racket face. The flat lob can be used effectively either as the tail end of a drop shot lob combination or defensively when you're under pressure. On the backhand side, the low to high lob should appear to the opponent as a driving ground stroke, except with less power and with an open racket face. The two-handed low to high lob shares many of the same characteristics. Notice the nice full follow-through. This two-handed backhand releases with one hand just after contact point for a more full extension on the follow-through. The underspin lob takes on all the swing characteristics of a chip forehand, with the only difference being again a more open racket face. This lob is often used when under pressure and when pulled wide in the court to allow more time for you to recover. Because this stroke looks so much like the backhand slice ground stroke, this lob can be a cleverly concealed weapon against a net rusher. The two-handed underspin lob looks much like the slice backhand, but with less power and a more open racket face. And here's the two-handed with the one-hand release on the follow-through. Topspin lobs require extreme racket head speed and near-perfect timing. Notice how the racket face brushes up through the contact zone in a windshield wiper-like action. As the stroke drives forward towards the contact point, the racket head is still positioned very low, but at the last second the racket head accelerates upward, creating a heavy brushing-like action. The topspin lob for a one-handed player requires the ability to produce the upward brushing action using the right swing path and a lot of forearm rotation. Notice the racket head speed and the action up and across. Again, this stroke requires excellent timing and control, but can develop into quite an offensive weapon against an aggressive net rusher. Having two hands on a topspin lob can be a distinct advantage because the two hands can work together to create tremendous racket head speed. You'll notice the technique on this type of lob sets the racket head very low with the butt of the racket pointing upward. As the stroke drives up to contact, the hands work to create the brushing effect. Used by many of the top professionals against aggressive net players, this lob can be hit at a higher pace, using the spin to bring it down. For many players, releasing with one hand after contact makes for an easier and more complete follow-through.
I can remember Kriegstein, Agassi, and Chang. Whew, unbelievable lobs. And they also were able to dip the ball with their two-handed shot. And Selish has a distinct advantage being able to lob off both sides because she's a two-handed player. So I firmly believe that the two-handed player has a distinct advantage.
Combinations are created by using two or more shots back-to-back to pull the opponent out of position so that you can end the point. Some combinations pair strokes together because they look alike and allow you to disguise the depth of your shots. The drop shot lob combination is very effective for drawing a player in tight to the net so that you can lob the ball into the open backcourt.
In the element of the drop shot, it's baseline against baseline, and both staying back. Here, one is coming in and forcing you to go into a combination of the variety of shots that you have.
The most common use of the lob is in combination with the passing shots. When the opponent attacks net, they force you to choose from one of three shots: the deep down the line pass, the sharp angle pass, or the lob. Using the three options in balance keeps the opponent guessing about where to position at net. When you back them off the net with a lob, your passing shots will become more effective. Conversely, when the use of your passing shots begin to draw the position of the opponent tighter to the net, now your lob will become more effective.
So what you have to do is to apply all the shots in order to make the lob effective. If you go to lob, 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 then the rusher will stop in the vicinity of the service line and hit most of your lobs away for winners. So what the baseliner must understand is to develop fear in the minds of the attacker will require that person to start working not only their angle shots and their dips, but their different types of lobs that they're comfortable in hitting. And that's going to depend on the caliber of the student, their grips, and how much they practice it.
We've seen how the lob can be used in combinations as more of an offensive shot, but many times you'll use the lob when there are very few other options, making it a defensive lob. The defensive use of the lob is often called for as the last effort to stay in a point, forcing your opponent to hit the overhead to put you away. So when you're in trouble, launch it up. On big points, overheads can be easy to miss.
The lob can have a sudden impact on a match. Spadia versus Agassi, 1999 Australia Open. Andre missed 2 or 3 key overheads. It actually had a major effect. Andre's shoulders slumped. They were outright winners. In fact, one he was on top of the net and he miffed it. Big impact. Why? That could have meant the game and put Andre in a role. Instead, it turned to be counterproductive for him. So an overhead, I can close my eyes again. Tommy Haas playing Marcelo Rios, Lipton, 1997. Tommy was 5 feet away from the net. Key point to win a set, and he misses the overhead completely. It turned around. Tommy's shoulders slumped. He knew he had a chance to go down to the wire. He gave it away. An overhead quite often can really turn it around because it's so obvious to everybody. Holy mackerel, the ball's sitting there. How could you miss it? And you miss it. I can still remember Beyond Borg coming to the academy, getting ready to play on the senior tour. I always like to know what makes people successful. So I said, Beyond, what is your key for success? And he said, Nick, I know the tennis court, I know the weather conditions, I know everything that can have an effect on my play that day. Today is windy. If you use the wind correctly, the lob can become a weapon in your play.
Being aware of how the conditions will affect all your shots is important, especially the shots that require touch, like the lob. Make a mental note when you walk on the court as to which way the wind is blowing, where the sun is, and anything else that might have an impact on your game. This way you can learn to use the elements to your advantage.
I think doubles is a fantastic game of, should we say, playing chess, because quite often you find the doubles combinations are effective if they can hit all sorts of shots. And once you can learn to hit all sorts of shots, you'll find that the doubles team will come out ahead. If you're restricted to just doing the same thing all the time, the opposition knows what you're going to do and you become less effective. And the lob in doubles is really effective according to the position you're in, because quite often your partner can be helpless at the net, and if you try a passing shot, they don't have a chance. So the lob or the passing shot often depends on the position of where your partner is at the net.
A good doubles team will leave you very few openings in the court, so you must create your openings through shot combinations. It is an objective in doubles for both players to move into net position as a team, leaving it up to your lob to back them up. The ability to hit the topspin lob as a strength is a big advantage in doubles. A few of those, and soon you'll find both your opponents playing back. Angles, drop shots, and especially the lob are key components to artfully opening up opportunities in doubles, allowing your team to close out points more successfully.
You know, the lobs are easy when everything is intact. Perfect balance, you have time to hit it. But that's not going to be the key to success. You have to learn to hit these lobs on the run, on your back foot, out of position. If you think that you're going to be in position to hit your lob with your foundation and having all the time in the world, forget about it. So you have to learn to do this off the most adverse conditions of all. If you're able to hit the lobs when you're completely off balance, then you go to another level. Why? Because that element of hitting an effective lob off a shot that the opponent felt was almost an outright winner makes that opponent think a couple of times, gosh, they got the ball back. I thought I had a winner. And that can cause some unforced errors in the hitting of their overhead. I can recall Tommy Haas. What had happened is the opponents playing Tommy attacked his backhand because they knew he was never going to hit the lob. And how did we practice this? We applied the same principle that Pete Sampras does from the baseline in his cross-court high rollers. We had Tommy practice that every single solitary day. And then he applied the same principle to the lob, and he had it. But again, you have to practice the shot, and you have a little difficulty. You have to get into some grip that might make it a little bit more comfortable because of the element of strength that enables you to hit the lob effectively.
报道网球的喜怒哀乐，网球杂志。